I am happy to be joined with the president and CEO of OverActive Media, Chris Overholt, joins us. How are you, sir?
I'm well. Good to see you.
Yeah, we had you on last summer. It's great to catch up. Obviously, some big news that happened last week with the announcement of this brand new state-of-the-art facility. But before I get into that, I want to look at this industry as a whole over the past, 12 months. There's been a lot more talk. Estimates that the global esports market could be worth as much as 1.9 billion by 2026. That's up from 691 million back in 2019. So you're seeing an annual growth of around 15%, according to the latest figures. So I wanted to ask you, as this industry collects more and more popularity, how do you see, I guess, the next 5 years of this industry growing? And let's face it, there's always hurdles in growth. What are some of those hurdles do you think we'll face?
Yeah, well, certainly, the industry has been projected and has been on a double-digit CAGR for a couple of years now, and it's
Yeah,
projected to continue in that way. You know, it's been largely driven, I think, by sponsorship engagement around, three areas. I would say media rights, mostly driven by Activision Blizzard and to some degree by Riot. Sponsorship engagement at the league and team level, and then just a broader investment, I guess, in influencers and streamers, kind of writ large across the ecosystem. Yeah, there's no indication that it's slowing down, and in
no,
fact, overactive media is a microcosm or a small expression of what the global industry is. Then we're on a good track here. It's we had, like everybody around the world, a bit of a hiccup, obviously, in the context of COVID last year. But I would say since the Q4 of last year, and certainly the momentum we've carried into this year, it's just continuing to pick up, particularly as it goes to, traditional brands starting to come across the threshold and starting to engage in esports and make investments for positioning against that coveted 18 to 34 audience. As to the challenges going forward, I'd say one opportunity and one challenge. The opportunity is for organizations like ours. We see a consolidation of the industry.
yeah,
We'd like to think we'll be one of those around which the industry consolidates, and
yeah,
say that with some level of confidence because of the investments that we've made. We own, the franchises that exist and play in the biggest and most important leagues in the
for
world. And
sure.
so in that context, we feel like we've got a pretty good stranglehold on the assets that will drive the ecosystem and drive the fan connection. I think the more immediate challenge for most, including us, is just to continue to grow revenues.
Yeah,
We've had good experience in growing our revenues. We're on a track to grow it by close to 80% this year.
yeah, yeah.
And we see greater opportunity in 2022. But all of the industry cannot say that, So I think that'll be the particular challenge for most of the global ecosystem.
Well, traditional media obviously is at a crossroads. I think that puts it mildly in this day and age. So you can obviously see a lot of these companies that are pivoting right now to obviously look at things that are moving forward. This is one of them. You talked about investments. So let's talk about this facility. It made headlines around the world last week. Overactive unveiled plans to build a new 7,000 seated esports entertainment venue in downtown Toronto, which is slated for completion in 2025. So walk me through. I'm walking in 2025. I see this venue. Like, is it going to be something that I've never seen before?
Oh, I sure hope so. We're beginning with that intention, that's for sure. And to be very clear, it's less an esports venue. It's more a performance venue or theater for the premium entertainment acts, music, comedy,
Okay.
anything you can imagine that would like to roll into Toronto, now the fourth largest market in North America, and has always been a premium entertainment market for now more than 20 years. We set out with the intention of being in the venue business from the very early days in the fall of 2018. We certainly knew that we would, if we're going to own franchises in Toronto, we would want to own the opportunity to own our own venue in which our teams could play. But we also saw the market opportunity that, frankly, others have seen and just haven't been able to get there. Certainly, I'm aware that MLSE had looked in the past at the potential of building out a venue of this nature. And I just, we found ourselves in a conversation at the partner group, just saying, if we could figure this out, it would be a great step forward for us. a great step forward for the city. The venue itself, again, we think could do 180 to 200 nights a year, almost right out of the gate. Revolving around, again, attracting premium entertainment acts. And when you think about it, it's been now more than 20 years, almost 24 years, where largely it's been the case that Scotiabank Arena, formerly the Air Canada Centre, has had, a stranglehold on that opportunity.
Right.
Otherwise, you're playing, Roy Thompson Hall at 3,000 seats, and that's not most of the premium entertainment that would arrive here. So we saw that as a gap in the market, and we sought to address that. As to the experience when you walk in, we're already
good point.
thinking about all of those things. And, it starts, I think, with what's the fan experience. And I think in these times, logically, you would take the conversation immediately to the tech. So, the building's got to have great plumbing. It's got to have a great backbone. It's got to have a fully 5G enabled environment to create interesting and new fan experience, we think. And so we're starting in those places. We're meeting with Cisco, Microsoft, Google, of course, with our great partners, Bell, who have, I think, the best 5 technology available in the country today. So we like our chances of being able to build a unique experience and one that we think could be defining for the world.
When you actually attend some of these events at, say, the Staples Center in LA, which gets probably 20 or 22,000 fans that are there, does it make more sense from a pure gaming event that's going on to have a seat that's more like around the 7,000 seated amount?
At this stage in the development of the industry and these franchise leagues, I would say yes. I think over time we certainly believe that our audience can and will outstrip traditional sport, frankly, and we've got research that says we're already on a trajectory to do that. But again, I would say our business model, pro forma, is premised on how do we attract the premium entertainment acts that roll into Toronto. I mean, when you think about it, Scotiabank Arena is effectively conflicted out 90 to 100 plus nights a year just based on the strength of our great teams here. And so, the Maple Leafs and the Raptors do not allow, a top act like John Legend or Lady Gaga to arrive in Toronto in those moments. We can be, not only an appropriate opportunity, separate and distinct from Scotiabank Arena, but I'd like to think in our business plan and strategy, a low net cost producer for those acts. And so a different choice for them. And, after 24 years, maybe they'd be interested in playing a different experience. And on the other side of COVID, we certainly wonder about things like mini residencies and so on that I think could be well constructed in an environment like this.
Twitter recently published data on Canada's gaming scene. Data showed that Call of Duty and Overwatch obviously are the 2 top esports games in Canada, while League of Legends came fourth. Your company, Overactive Media, as you said before, are the owners of Calls of Duty and Overwatch franchises. What do you think that these metrics tell you from an industry standpoint? And when you're looking at an investor in this space, question is, do you guys plan to go public, and what should people take away from the surge of popularity?
Yeah, first of all, we have a great relationship with Twitter, and that really is the platform of choice for our fans. So
100%.
Our prominence there. I think that's a product of some really great work, frankly, done by our team and our leagues that we play in. Our global head of marketing, our global head of partnerships, Mike Armstrong and Tyler Keenan, respectively, have been working closely together and with our partners to really build an audience for these 2 teams and these 2 leagues in this country. And again, I think it's really just a glimpse of where a whole generation of fans is going to want to take us. We've got research.
It's crazy how much you've seen change though these past 12 months. Do you not think?
In particular, and again, I'd like to think that that's a little bit us and a little bit, the generation of fans that we keep referencing, kind of taking over and really starting to express themselves in those ways. But, we've got research that says right now that north of 75% of millennials think of esport as their sport of choice, ahead of traditional sport. And so in that context, it's logical that Call of Duty and Overwatch would be at the top of their list because these are 2 of the biggest and most prominent esport leagues that exist in the world today. League of Legends, of course, being one of the others, and I would say the NFL of esport today. That's a 12, 13-year-old game, and we play, of course, in the European League of Legends under our Mad Lions brand. So again, from an investor perspective, that's a unique story that we can tell. We have a fourth team that plays in a league called Flashpoint, in a game called Counter-Strike. These are the 4 franchise leagues that exist in the world today.
Yep.
And OverActive Media is unique in that context, insofar as there isn't another organization in the world that has 4 franchise teams. So we like that position. We like that global leading position, and we think it makes us a unique offer to the marketplace.
So this facility, once it is complete, what does this do for the city of Toronto, the country of Canada, and for the most part, does it make you, I guess, a market leader, I guess, across North America in the industry?
I certainly would like to think so, but again, I think of it a little bit as the dimensionalization of OverActive Media's business on the macro, meaning, we set out, of course, focused on acquiring franchises that play in these leagues because we knew esport was going to be at our core and we should want to be in that leading position in the biggest leagues in the world. That said, we also set out with the intention of building what we often term a 21st century sport media and entertainment company, a position like we've seen MLSE and MSG take up over many years now, except with a new generation of fans in mind who frankly just think differently about
100%
sports and
they do.
media consumption.
That's when I show my age when I speak to these people. It's like, just when you think that your idea is the only idea, you start to look at how these things are done, and all of a sudden there's a 15-year-old kid that could be making more money than I am on a per month basis. And I'm like, okay.
Well, not so far from the truth these days. So again, we started when I was at Maple Leaf Sports. Richard Petty used to say to all of us all the time, "Hey, look at our teams are our engine, right? That's what allows us to build fan connection, authentic emotional connection to those fans. And if we do that well and consistently over time, then we'll be well positioned with a strong ownership of audience."
Yeah.
On the other side, that venue, when we took on and that executive team built out the Air Canada Center, then that was a big step for us as well, and again allowed us to dimensionalize our business into entertainment and more broadly, bring an offering to the city. We see the step that we're taking with the venue the very same way.
Yeah. Okay.
With esport at our core, the dimension of the building is another step. We're certainly thinking about some M&A work that we might take on in the coming year or so, and got our eyes set on a broader strategy around gaming. So we'll see where it takes us, but again, it's as big a step for us as it will be for the city and the country.
Yeah, I think Dana White, I think he'd love something like this too at the UFC, to have an event like that with 7,000 fans. That would be like UFC Fight Night in more intimate type setting, which is kind of the route that they've gone, but the ratings have been through the roof for them.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. He's done a masterful job in these times of keeping his sport front and center. And I think you're right. A venue like this is well positioned for.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask, and it is pertaining to esports again. How important is like broadcast rights moving forward? When you see the emergence of like the way people are consuming video content, YouTube, Twitter, Clipboard now, Twitch, obviously, how important is, I guess, broadcast rights when we look at all this stuff and emerging with some of the traditional platforms out there that, let's face it, are, as I said before, at a crossroads right now and are currently downsizing?
It's central to our thesis. And again, there are a bunch of indicators that says we're on the right track. The only audience in 2019 to grow in the 18 to 34 space, the only audience next to NCAA basketball, Major League Baseball, NHL hockey, was the Overwatch League audience, 18 to 34. That's a Nielsen research fact.
Right.
And so, again, central to OverActive Media's thesis is that these leagues, these franchise leagues that we're invested in, are going to be, again, the pivot point around which the industry consolidates. Central to that is the idea that they will be able to monetize their media rights. And we've watched Activision Blizzard do this already successfully.
Right.
Their first broadcast deal was a $100 million deal with Twitch. They followed that up with a joint Overwatch Call of Duty media deal with Google YouTube for $160 million.
Yeah.
League of Legends is poised to do their broadcast deal, we think, at the end of next year. And that's the biggest audience. To give you some sense, our initial match against G2 at the start of this year, the spring season, drew 470,000 peak viewers for the first regular season match of the year. I can tell you that
Fox
we were
Business News
early days. What's that?
Fox Business News across the U.S. gets about 400,000 viewers across the country. If that doesn't show you what the future is, then what is?
There you go. Like, these are global audience on a native digital platform.
Yeah.
And for our business, from our business's perspective, that's high margin revenue for us.
For sure.
That doesn't cost us $1 more to recognize and receive our share of that media right than anything else we do. And then, of course, we have the local and national media sponsorship rights and so on that run similarly high. So, we've got an incredible gross margin opportunity here that is driven out of that media rights relationship to those franchise leagues.
Obviously, great momentum that you're building, and great story. And again, congrats on the facility announcement last week. Appreciate you taking the time, and let's keep in touch.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Chris.